Hello, and as you see, I've got my favorite black sweater on. Summer ended, and boy, we had a 30-degree drop um, yesterday. From the day before, it was in the 90s, and then the high yesterday was in the 60s, and it's about the same today. Cheers. It's Friday, getting ready for a busy weekend. I have 2 gigs. Looking forward to both of them. Today, the 22nd, as I was looking at the internet is our how do I put it? It's like a community board. Like like if you lived in a building with people and there's that one central communication hub. That's kind of how I view my use of the internet in particular. Not the computer. The computer is quite a tool. I have some mixing work to do more today too. Lots to share. Actually, I hope I don't forget to share that part. But it came up that today is John Coltrane's birthday. I didn't catch how old he would be if he were alive, but I thought it was a great opportunity to share a story I've shared before, and I did on my page today on Facebook, where, to set it up, my dad was raised in Chicago, and his mom, my grandmother, was big into music and was involved in the urban world, the street scene. And I had a lot of contact with musicians besides my dad himself studying music. So when we moved to Omaha, my dad was still performing and going on the road and stuff, and people would come through. I wish I could remember half the people. I wish I could. The one that stands out the strongest is Johnny Griffin, because he was raised with my dad, and Johnny insisted on us calling him Uncle Johnny. And he came several times just to see us, to see the family in Omaha. But another standout in the home, visiting us when I was maybe 6 or 7, is John Coltrane. Now, I got to tell you, I remember this, but there was a period as I'm growing up, like in my teen years, where it just wasn't registering. It was almost like I couldn't, as my awareness of music and the bigger picture and everything continued to grow, it almost seemed to me, John Coltrane, was that really John Coltrane? And then I review the actual memories that I still have. And then I finally, because it took me a while, because I thought to myself, this is almost too real to be true. And so then I finally asked my siblings, my brothers in particular. They remember him, my sisters don't. But that's part of the course, because I don't remember half of the people. There was a lot of probably famous jazz people who would come through and jam and hang out and get high, etc. And I don't remember. I know that my dad played with T-Bone Walker, the blues great, and he had a lot of blues jams as well as jazz. I know he was friends with Dexter Gordon and folks like that. So who knows of all those people who was at our house and I was around. But the John Coltrane I remember, and it was significant, and I'll share that. He came. I remember him having some kind of food with us. We were pretty, low income. But my dad was real. I remember about this, because Coltrane had a presence, even though I was a little boy. His presence as a person, I was struck by it. My grandfather, my mom's dad, who was a very respected minister here in town, who really walked the walk. He wasn't a hypocrite. I had the same feeling about Coltrane, similar to my grandfather, very reverential and respectful. What I remember, though, is that while we're at the house, he and my dad are going on about music, and I'm so into the music, And so at one point, John Coltrane picks me up and sits me on his lap while we're listening to music, talking, or some kind of mess, which leads to my dad announcing, well, me and John are going down to the record store to buy his latest single. This isn't it, but I have a John Coltrane promo single on the Prestige label. I forget the one my dad bought. I wish I still had it. I still have some of my dad's records. But they had released a single off of his latest album. I don't remember what it was, this early 60s. And my dad offered that I could go to the record store with them, because I was just, completely in awe of records and record players at the time. So those are the parts I remember very clearly. And the other part that I remember clearly was having trouble with John Coltrane's last name and being corrected. I kept saying, Mr. Coltrane, Mr. Coltrane. And I don't know if it was my older sister or if it was my dad who says, no, Dereck, it's Coltrane, like down at the rail yard. We lived close to Union Pacific, like a coal train. And then I got it. Oh, Mr. Coltrane. It was John Coltrane. And sure enough, I got to go to the record store with them, and on part of the walk, we could walk. It was that close. Did we walk? I remember walking into the store and John Coltrane holding my hand. So I thought it was worth sharing on John Coltrane's birthday. And I have this promo single of his, I Want to Talk About You. His beautiful ballad playing with the Red Garland Trio. I pulled some of my Coltrane. I don't have... See, when it comes to jazz, that's why I say that I'm not a jazzer. I've got jazz. But if I were trying to be a jazz completist, it would be insane. So I'm not even trying to collect all of John Coltrane. There's just way too much. And the fact of the matter is I don't listen. I don't listen to a lot of jazz. But I'll show part of my Coltrane collection. This is maybe about half of what I have is what I just pulled to show. Sunship. And I can't really, if I can't talk about the recording, I won't, because a lot of these I need to go back and listen to. I know I like this one. I think this was kind of on the free side. This one I know because I had to learn how to play it, and so I've listened to this a million times. Coltrane's Giant Steps. And it took me years to get through the changes and start to understand them. But my younger brother, rest in peace, who's on my mind when I talk about these things, if it wasn't for him, I probably could not have navigated Giant Steps. But it was really well worth learning. My favorite things, again, this is just, his version is, superior to the vocal version for me, the original from the soundtrack. Here's one I'd have to listen to remind myself what it is. The Last Train. Paul Chambers, Red Garland, Donald Byrd, The Cats, Louis Hayes. Last Train. Here is one of my prized collector's pieces, is the John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane Cosmic Music that they put out on their own label. And this is the first pressing. There's two different pressings, and you can tell by the color of the label of the album. It's the first pressing I've had since the 70s, and again, it's another cool story. Will Smith, who wrote for Downbeat but lived in Omaha, worked at the World Herald, where me and my dad and I were security guards for a while, working together. Will had a friend who was selling his record collection, got in touch with my dad and I. We went down and bought a bunch of stuff out of a car trunk. And this was one of the records that, as I flipped past it, Will Smith stopped me and said, "You must buy that record. You don't know. Trust me, you need to buy it." And I maybe paid $15 for it. Live at the Village Vanguard. Again, these are some really cool recordings. I've been to the Village Vanguard, glad to say. I made the sojourn there when last time I played in New York. Saw Robbie Coltrane with Jerry Allen and Jeff Tain Watts on drums. Great show. Kulu Say Mama. I know this is a good one. Man, I haven't played this in a while, with McCoy Tyner and Elvin Jones. That's the other thing about doing this sort of thing with these videos. It's like, okay, here's some music that's like it's been sitting on the shelf. and it's out of sight, out of mind. And so here it is. It's like some of this stuff is getting played today. The Avant-Garde with Don Cherry. Some old stuff from the Savoy sessions with Wilbur Harden. See, some of these names. It's like some of these people might have been some of the people I was around, as well as in Chicago as a toddler. I have a really vague memory of Nat King Cole, and I'm thinking that's from being in Chicago at my grandmother's place, and he was a visitor. Of course, Love Supreme, not an original, not an old pressing, but again, this is some essential listening. I grabbed this when it came out, the Untitled Originals. This one, it's like a lot of folks freak because of the holes in the vinyl. I've only played it a few times. It's a collector's item. It's just neat to have. And then here's the whole album. Directions. Both Directions at Once, the Lost Album. Really nothing revelatory on here that I remember. I remember that it's good. There's several takes of things worth revisiting. Black Pearls, Coltrane. Who's with him on this? Again, yeah, the Cats. Donald Byrd, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Art Taylor. Yeah. Solid players. Notable one. Africa Brass with John Coltrane's Quartet. Yeah, this is old style Impulse. I've got a few. And then I've got a couple copies of this album, different versions, Ballads. And this is one that I remember, I've talked about it. I can hear it right now in my head. Because my dad loved this album, and he endeavored to learn a lot of it, playing it like Coltrane, and being able to do so with to great effect. My dad was actually quite a player. I was just talking to someone how I can't imagine my dad didn't do some recording sessions, but I have nothing, and there's nothing released that I know about. But he could play. So happy birthday, John Coltrane. I've got that much more John Coltrane in my collection. I just grabbed those. And happy Friday, everyone. I'm looking forward to my gigs. Tomorrow is solo. I'm hoping that I can use my visuals. I always do internally stress a little bit about how I present the music, because it's, I don't do vocals, but when I play it live, I kind of toast like a DJ to a degree, and then other times, if I'm feeling it, I'll try to sort of semi-rap or just, make up stuff on top of it. So as I go through playing the tunes and toying with the additional keyboard parts that I'll play, I don't actually out loud practice things I'll possibly say, but I think about them. So getting ready for that, and then Sunday is RAF. So glad to have a show with the band, and we're opening for Agent Orange, and we have rehearsal tonight. Tim comes in, flies in from Phoenix tonight for rehearsal. I'm looking forward to that. It's always even when we have not the best gig, just playing that music takes a lot of energy, so it's always pretty cathartic. I love it. Looking forward to it. You all take care, and stay in touch.